So, welcome to the final episode of Beyond the Strike, Season 1. And I'm delighted to say we're joined by your new favourite fighter, Kamaka. Kai, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Excellent. Well, our first round is called From the Start. And our first questions we've got for you are, where did you grow up and how did you get into combat sports?
I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, Oahu, kind of the gathering isle of the islands, the most populated island. And then I got into combat sports just because my dad and my uncles, they were kind of like a lot of the pioneers of Hawaii MMA. Ray Cooper, Ron John, David Pa'aluhi. Those guys are like, if you look at like first generation MMA in Hawaii, those are names that you're gonna see as far as Hawaiians. And that was like the beginning ages of all MMA in Hawaii, period. And my uncle Ray Cooper was like the first one, like, and me closest to my family because and my uncle Ron, because they're both married to my dad's sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So my uncle Ray, he was kind of the guy that started off as far as our family, and then from there, I mean, it just went off, wrestling, boxing, and then but MMA was always the forefront of what was the martial arts.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like it's absolutely in your blood. So, did you instantly know it was what you wanted to do and kind of follow in your family footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask even anybody around my family, they would be they would tell you this was it. This is what they thought we were gonna do. So
yeah. And can you remember the first MMA fight that you watched?
yeah, I mean, I don't know about the first MMA fight that I watched, but like there was a lot. I remember the local arena that we would always go to, and that was like one of the most favorite things to do at that time, and it is still one of the most favorite things to do. Blaisdell Arena. We were watching Super Brawl fights there from the very beginning. I mean, it seemed like as soon as we could walk. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know the exact first fight, but I mean, just the practice of always going to the arena, when there was an event, that was big to us.
Yeah, it sounds so you've always kind of been in and around the MMA culture. It's like just second nature to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, second nature, first nature. Actually, I mean, we were I mean, everything else around our life kind of molded us to fight MMA.
Mm. And when we're talking about MMA and those sorts of early influences, it's really clear that obviously your family were really influential. Was there any particular fighters that you used to follow and really look up to when you first started watching it?
I would say in my later years, I mean, it's not even in my later years, but like middle school to high school, I was a big like Team Alpha Male guy, like Team Alpha Male fan. At that time, just because I had like a connection to their team, with one of my friends. Their brother trained there, and he was living with Uriah Dam, and then I was a wrestler. I could strike, so that's just where I kind of, I was a big fan of Team Alpha Male, Uriah Faber, Chad Mendez, the original group, Joseph Benavidez, Danny Castillo. So
Just so iconic now. The names you just ringing off, and it's just such an iconic moment within MMA. And I think it kind of can't be underestimated, really, how influential they were.
yeah, I mean, especially the core group. I mean, those 14, like I was watching them, four guys. I was watching them when they were in WEC and even in Pride or Bushido.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really amazing. I remember I think like Team Alpha Male, I remember really getting into learning more about them through the Ultimate Fighter. I think I can't remember what series it was. It might have been the Connor series actually, where it was him and Uriah in it, and it was just so much in it. And then from that, you had the whole TJ dynamic and everything. It was great to watch, like really entertaining and just incredible fighters all round.
I really like that team in the like that the first generation of Team Alpha. Or not, it wasn't even the first generation. It was first generation. It'd be like Mark Munoz was a part of that team. But I mean, during that the early stage of Team Alpha Male, they really share like a team aspect, like a brotherhood type of aspect. And you don't really see that MMA nowadays. You know, everybody goes here, there, and I'm not really like that type of guy. I mean, prior to moving to Vegas, I used to just train in my cousin's garage. It's me and my cousin Ray and a few of my other cousins, and that was it. So I mean, but you really lose the team aspect in MMA nowadays.
Yeah, do you know, it's a really interesting point because kind of when you think about MMA, it's such a like a solo sport, like it's you in a cage against someone else. But in actual fact, it's not. You've usually got a huge team around you, and it's kind of the actual fighting element is minutes versus the hours and hours and months of dedication that you put in with a team. So it's a really important point. And do you have you ever changed up your team, or has it always been the same people?
No, my core group of guys has always been my same people. As far as the people that I trust, the people that I'm willing, I can always count on, they've always stayed the same. I've added new pieces like since moving to Vegas, but like my cousin Ray and like a few others from back, my other cousin that I'm really close with, they still come out and corner me, bearing that like the situation as far as fight schedule works out. I mean, I don't really change much. I try to mimic as much as possible, like this training schedule I had back home too.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to come on to as well. So in terms of your preparation for a fight, as you've got more and more experienced and have more fights under your belt, is there anything you've really looked to like significantly change, or has it always been a few like little tweaks and stuff over time?
And the whole moving to Vegas, that was a big nut. Like, yeah, it was a big shock to me as far as like the way the culture of how people train up here, like like training times and how team practices are kind of structured, the times and stuff, and then just the guys coming and going. But then the more you get to you get used to it, then you start to becoming your own again. You kind of the way you schedule things around practices. I just try to mimic it as much as possible of what I used to have back home. And yeah, I don't really like to change much. I try to do like less it's hard to say. I mean, staying more true to myself and what makes me good, and I just make that better. I mean, of course you add new techniques, or you add new new thoughts behind certain things. But as far as the style of fight and the way I fight, I don't really try to change too much.
Yeah, and building up to a fight, do you have any superstitions that you always do before a fight, or perhaps before the weigh-in?
No, I don't. I mean, if you follow me throughout like a fight week, no, I don't. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I guess one ritual. It's not even a ritual. Is like my cousin's always there, and he's the one that's always like he's the one like not pep talk, but he's the one like talking to me before a fight. He's the one that kind of takes the lead as far as like when I'm like about to walk out, and like, or yeah, the moments before walking out, he's the one that's talking to me the whole time. And I don't know, it's just a connection that we have, and it's just like there's a time before the fight that he knows when to do it, and it's when nobody else is really talking, and it's just me and him kind of like talking back and forth.
So kind of just getting in that headspace that you need to be in before getting in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different because it's something. I mean, this is a connection. This is a lifelong connection. So I mean, it's just different. I mean, we prior to the fight, we're having the fight week is like the time of our life. Just being around each other, and then like we're kids again in high school, just laying around playing video games, working out, and then as hours get closer to the fight, things get a little bit more serious, and the minutes get closer, and it gets a little bit more serious, and then fight time is fight time, and then after the fight, we go right back to being kids again. Yeah. It's just it's weird, and I wouldn't want to. It's hard to replace that. As far as not being like home, but as far as like being like in a war aspect with the people that that care for you.
Yeah, and you want, I mean, you're going to war, so you want your closest family and friends with you by your side. Yeah, makes complete sense. And outside of MMA, who would you say your biggest inspiration is in the world of sport?
In the world of sport?
Yeah.
Outside of MMA.
You have any? Because I guess you're so like your whole family and your whole life is just so MMA focused. Are you kind of into any other sports?
I mean, like at its core, I'm a big boxing and wrestling fan, like collegiate style wrestling. But I mean, not really as far as out of MMA. I mean, like in our family dynamic, I mean, we all wanted to be great. We wanted to do good, like each other. So I mean, that's probably the biggest inspiration as far as growing up. All of us competing, we wanted to do good in football. We wanted to do good in wrestling, and we're all pretty competitive. So I mean, that was probably the biggest motivation, always moving as far as sport wise.
Yeah, like pushing each other on, making sure. Is it like a super competitive family?
Yeah, I mean, it's super competitive, but not like it's, I mean, in a good way. Like my cousin would do good. He's a little bit older. Okay, we expect to do good. We want to do good things. And then like even in wrestling, he was kind of the older one. He would be winning a state title. Okay, we got to win a state title. That was just the way it was kind of setting benchmarks for each other.
So next round is called the hypothetical round. And so hypothetical question for you today is, you have the power to change one thing in mixed martial arts. What would it be? And it can be literally anything from judging to anything.
Yeah, I would say the criteria and how to become a judge. I guess that's a good one. The criteria on how to become a judge. I would change that.
Yeah, in terms of like you have to have fight experience, or like what would you put into the criteria?
I mean, I don't know what I mean. I think, yeah, maybe a decent level of experience. I don't know what, maybe like at least 10 fights. Like 10 pro fights. I would say that would be a good number. At least 10 pro fights. In MMA.
Yeah.
I think that would be
it's hard. It is hard to score, because you kind of think of traditional boxing, and like it's so much more straightforward to score boxing, and then MMA, it's like a lot of it's how much do you weigh on, say, grappling versus striking, and like
that's why I think you would have to be an MMA fighter, other than anything else. You'd have to be an MMA fighter to get it, especially like in certain situations, like if you're holding down a striker and you're not doing nothing, I would I feel like you're still scoring points because you're holding somebody in a place that they don't want to be. Then it's like, rather than if you're holding down a grappler and he's throwing up all these submissions and you're just defending, then it's a little bit different.
There's so many nuances, isn't there? Like lots of nuances in it.
So you have to be like, if you're putting somebody in a place that they don't want to be, and you put that in a street fight setting, that you're winning the fight. So I mean, you put it, and that's what it is, right? It's like a legalized full contact sport. So you put that in a ring, in a closed setting or an octagon. If you're putting somebody in a place that they don't want to be, then I feel like you're winning the fight, or you're that's how you score the takedown, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It really does.
Or like if you're holding down a wrestler who keeps trying to get up, but he can't get up, that they're winning. So it's like, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's all, I mean, sure, I wouldn't know all the answers, but I know I did win 2 fights that just happened to me. So
yeah, I know. And do you know what? It brings us nicely to our next question. So next round is what's next? And like, we've been watching your fights this week, and I remember watching them live at the time. And looking at your UFC record, you could easily have been 3-1 in the UFC, easily. So do you feel like there's unfinished business there for you?
I don't know. I mean, sure. I mean, the UFC is the UFC, right? But it's like, I don't know. It gave me I have a bad taste in my mouth about the way the situation was handled. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm 3-1 in the UFC. I mean, as an athlete, I mean, you can't tell me that, like, if somebody like lays that record out in front of me, you can't tell me otherwise. I mean, they'd be a fool. I just feel like they'd be a fool of themselves to think that I didn't belong there. Like, if you look at that roster, three of those guys are still on the roster. And when the one loss that I feel like I have, he's doing well. And that's a fight that I took on 7 days notice.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing against him, because I would take that fight on 7 days notice every time. But, the only one guy that beat me is still on there, or 3 guys that I fought are still on the roster. So like, that's the thing that gets me. It's like, it's not what happened. I already moved past that. I don't feel like I got beat. So it's not like I'm being bitter. Like, my feelings doesn't change about the fights. It's just thinking, I mean, like, being in those fights, and then now it's like 3 of those guys are still on the roster. That's what frustrates me. So it's like, I don't know about unfinished business, but and not that it matters, but I mean, my name is the one that's more relevant now than any of those 3 guys. And just because the simple fact that I like to compete, I always want to fight, and I'm always training. I want to get better. And that's the reason why I feel like my name is more relevant, not any other. I'm not talking crazy or doing anything stupid, or, to hurt myself, put my name out there. So yeah, I mean, that's just the way I feel. I don't know about unfinished business, because I don't know whose fault it was, but the situation wasn't handled right.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an exciting time at the moment. I think Bellator is just such an organization which just is on the up and up. It's so exciting. The cards that they're putting on are just incredible. So when's the latest on when we can see you back in the cage?
I'm hoping to have some news really soon. I headed up to. I was texting my manager this morning. Maybe we're always talking, but I'm headed out to Bellator this weekend in Phoenix. So I'm hoping to, get some news.
Yeah, well, we honestly can't wait to see you back in the cage. You're always an entertaining fighter to watch, and like, as we say, like, we've watched your fights really closely, and your record is very impressive. So we know we'll be supporting you every time you get in that cage.
Thank you. I mean, the thing that frustrates me is the only person that suffers, I mean, not the only person, the people that suffer from this, like from that whole situation is my family. As far as like, I didn't, I'm not getting paid the way I'm supposed to. And I already get to do what I love for a living. Now they're at home, they're full time at home, or my wife and kids, and they kind of reap the benefits of me doing my job rightfully. That's what frustrates me about it. And then my wife's a big fight fan, just because the life that we live, like this is her life too. So she fully understands that. When we're watching fight, she gets sick to her stomach when she sees like the guys that I fought, that they're fighting, and my name keeps getting brought up during the fight because my name is so relevant. It's a credible win to them, and it's just like it eats at her. That's what frustrates me about the situation.
Yeah,
more so than anything.
Yeah, it's so true. But I think you can take that fire and like the knowledge that any fight fan who watched those fights know the truth of the results. So I think you can definitely take that in there.
Yeah, I'm not. But it feels good about is like everybody says the same thing. I mean, people from different countries say the same thing, all over the world. But the thing that's reality is, it's not. I don't even know how it's reality, but what's the reality is my record, or my UFC record, where it's okay, whatever, I guess so. But everybody in the world, like they don't even they wouldn't even think that I lost, or they don't even think of it as a losses. So that's the cool part. But the reality is, I didn't get paid fully.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. It really does. Well, it's honestly been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. As we say, we can't wait to see you back in the cage again. And yeah, really looking forward to all the best wishes for you for your next fight.
Thank you. It was a good time talking.